So in this video, we're going to see how art changed starting in the late 1800s. And it changed because of this invention, the camera. Since the Renaissance, artists have tried to recreate reality on canvas or in sculpture. But with the invention of the camera, that's not necessary anymore. You just take a picture if you want reality. So artists began to question, well, why are we even creating them? If the purpose of art is not to recreate reality as we see it, what are we going to do? And then artists begin to think, you know what? The point of art is not to recreate reality as we see it, is to recreate it as we feel it. And that's something very different. And if you're recreating reality based on how you feel it, then you don't necessarily have to follow all the traditional rules of art anymore. You can begin to abandon the rules. Your art does not have to look like reality, it just has to feel like reality. Right? So you look at, for instance, Impressionism, right? Instead of painting in the studios, the Impressionists went out and they painted nature directly, not in the studios, and they're really interested in the interplay between light and color. Monet is associated with this movement, right? And this is one of his paintings. And as you can see, it's not a completely accurate recreation of reality. It's more like a snapshot in time. Sometimes they would paint quickly because they want to get that particular moment with the light in that particular way. Now, it's not abstract. You know what you're looking at, but it's certainly not visual reality. Sometimes they would paint the same scene multiple times at different times of the day just to see how at different times of the day the colors appeared to be different. And then you look at post-impressionism, really concerned with color and the expression of emotion. Van Gogh is probably the most famous post-impressionistic artist, and his stuff was so different at the time. He did not get recognition while alive. I think he only sold one painting while alive, and that was to his brother. It wasn't until after his death that art critics were able to kind of readjust their thought and recognize the genius of Van Gogh. This is probably his most famous painting called Starry Night. Now, once again, it's not visual reality. He painted that particular moment, how he felt in that particular moment. He would paint with a lot of emotion and passion. In fact, if you go up to a Van Gogh painting, you can see sometimes how hard he pressed down with his brushes because it leaves ridges in the paint. If you could rub your hand across Van Gogh, don't do that, by the way, because you get in trouble, but if you could, you'd feel the ridges in the paint. So this is a self-portrait he did. He did a series of self-portraits of himself. And once again, just in the background, you can tell that's not necessarily visual reality. We are abandoning visual reality because we're trying to paint how we feel, not what we see. And you look at Cubism. Right? You're trying to distill art into its most basic forms. Well, one of the most basic forms is simply shapes. So Cubism uses geometric shapes to recreate reality. Probably the most famous cubist is Picasso. This is one of his more famous paintings. Now, you could tell it's the painting of a woman. Obviously not visual reality, though, because we are abandoning visual reality. And sometimes people are like, well, that's not art, right? Yes, it is. It's just the rules of art have changed. As long as you are painting what you feel, it counts as art. And many of these artists, like Picasso, could paint quote unquote normal if he wanted. This is another one of Picasso's, one of his early paintings where he delved into cubism. He could if he wanted. He didn't want to, because why bother? Take a picture. He was more interested in experimenting. How far can we push art? When does art stop being art? Does art ever stop being art? As long as I'm painting what I am feeling. And then you look at the next one, abstract expressionism. It just abandons visual reality altogether. I mean, with that cubism painting of Picasso, you could tell that's a woman, right? Abstract expressionism just uses line and color. If you look at the paintings of Kandinsky, right? Lines and colors. Right? You can't go up to that and say, well, what is it? Oh, it's a bird. Oh, it's a flower. No, it's not. It's not visual reality whatsoever. He's trying to capture emotion using the most basic form of art, lines and colors. And it's challenging to look at because we're so used to this idea that art has to be like this. And as you can imagine, some of these artists caught a lot of flack from the public when they were breaking new ground. And sometimes people are like, well, I could do that, anyone could do that. Perhaps, but you're not the first, so it wouldn't matter. These artists are breaking new ground, and they were willing to risk it. They were willing to risk the criticism. That's why they matter. If you do something like that, it doesn't matter because it's been done before. You're not really breaking any new ground. You're not risking anything. And it wasn't all just art either. There was also architecture, something called functionalism, made famous by Frank Lloyd Wright. And with functionalism, everything must serve a function. No unnecessary ornamentation. Nothing for the sake of appearance. If it doesn't serve a function, it doesn't need to be on there. Now, that does not mean that it doesn't need to be beautiful. If anything, it's more challenging because it needs to be beautiful and serve a purpose. This is probably his most famous building that he designed. It's called Falling Water. So functionalism is known for its clean, straight lines and use of geometric shapes and also blending in with nature. It looks like this house is literally part of nature, but it is not ugly. There's just no extra ornamentation. It doesn't need it. Nature itself is its ornamentation. Right? He also designed the Guggenheim Museum. Once again, you see those clean, straight lines, geometric shapes, but you go inside, right? And it's inspired by nature. Those spirals were inspired by the inside of seashells, where if you look inside of the seashell, you see those spirals, and all the walls are white. They're stark white, so the art pops from the walls. Everything has a function and a purpose while maintaining beauty.